Settings for creating an assessment using Google Forms. Google Forms is a great way to create quizzes and tests for students during distance learning. However, if you do not have the correct settings in place, um, it will not be graded properly, and it's possible Google doesn't even recognize it as a quiz at all. So let's say this is a history quiz. Just because we title it History Quiz does not mean Google recognizes that as a quiz. We have to go into the settings, go to the Quizzes tab, and click Make this a quiz. Otherwise, point values will not be awarded, answer cannot be entered, and Google cannot grade anything because it doesn't think it's a quiz that needs to be graded. Now, these options are very important, and we'll go over these right now. Quiz options, locked mode on Chromebooks. This is a fantastic way to keep students from looking up the answers by opening another tab. However, it can only be done, as it says, on managed Chromebooks. And what that means is your students have to be using Muroc managed school issued Chromebooks while they take the quiz. If they're not doing that, they will not be able to access this quiz. So if they're using a PC at home, a desktop, a laptop, a Mac, um, if they're on their phone using the Google Drive app, if they are using a tablet, they won't be able to access the quiz. So while locked mode is a great option to use, it only works for us teachers if everybody has a district managed Chromebook that they are using. So unless you're 100% certain your students are using one of those school issued Chromebooks, do not turn on locked mode. Otherwise, you'll be getting a lot of calls and emails from parents asking why their student can't access the quiz. Here, you also need to decide, do you want to release the grades immediately after each submission? So if it's just a quick and simple 5-question multiple choice quiz, you can set it to where Google will grade everyone automatically and instantaneously after it's submitted. So you may want to release the grades immediately after each submission. However, if you have an essay or some short answer questions that you need to read through and award points for, you'll want to say that the grades will be released later after you review them. So you just let students know you'll get your grade right away, or you'll have to wait a little bit until I can look over everything. Now here, after students submit, they'll get a little report page that they go to. Do you want them to see the questions they missed? That's where you decide if you want to check that box or not. Do you want them to see the correct answers for the questions they've missed? Now, this is a big one because if you at all allow your students to retake failed quizzes or tests and you let them see the correct answers, they aren't going to go back and study. They're going to memorize those answers. So that's something you want to think about. And also point values. Do you want them to see that the essay is worth 10 points, or do you just want them to see the essay itself? That's all up to you. Now, another important settings page here for quizzes is the general page. Do you want to limit to one response? Can students take your quizzes over and over, or do you just want them to have one opportunity? You can always go back in and uncheck this if you have kids who need to retake failed quizzes, but I always like to keep this checked because students who get 8 out of 10 might want 100%, so they're going to try it again. And you don't want them spending all of this time only to find out, well, I take the first quiz that you submitted because that was your first um, opportunity to show me what you know. Also here, we have respondents can edit after submission. Now, this is one. If you want them to be able to edit after submission, this means they can submit it. And especially if you are over here and they can see the correct answers, all of a sudden, they're just going to open up the quiz they've already submitted, change their answers, and resubmit it. So I always like to keep this unchecked. Now, this is a brief overview of settings for assessments. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll cover creating assessments in more detail in another video.